Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio with Tom and Ramon. This is, oh boy, this year's been just flying by so far, Ramon. It's already the end of February, and it just seems like that December 21st thing was just yesterday. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's that time compression thing. Maybe is this a Terrence McKenna's time compression thing going on here?
yeah, it's funny because, especially we're always making, the guest list for the show and like, oh, we're working on April already.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. I sometimes feel like I'm living in the future.
Yeah. Well, it's going so fast, but things are happening just as fast as the time seems to be flying by. I mean, we had that asteroid that broke apart here, or meteorite that broke apart over Russia last week, and now I guess it is an alien attack. Is that what you said? That those guys were saying, or something like that?
Yeah, several people were saying that it was an alien attack, but
Well, there was a Russian scientist that said that it was a new weapon from the Americans that's being tested on them. Stuff like this happens, and it comes out of the woodworks. I mean, people's imaginations start going wild, and there really is something to that seek and you will find. If you want to find something that ties something together, and you look hard enough, you will find something that makes absolutely perfect sense to you, and you can convince yourself of something that is totally, I don't know, out of left field somewhere.
yeah, I'm open to many ideas, and there is many conspiracies that I definitely think that are very real.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very, I hate using that word, but very skeptical of that part. But I'm open to see if there's anything. Now, I am open that maybe somebody pushed it, but I still think it's a meteor. I don't think it's a ship or anything. I just don't see it.
Yeah, well,
I've seen fireballs in the sky, and if it's,
yeah, okay. So on the news section on the website, guys, that's www.the100thmonkeyradio.com. You scroll down towards the bottom, you'll see a beautiful picture of a really handsome bald guy sitting at the beach. Right below that, we've got some clips that we dropped in there. Now, there's a 300-year-old machine found or some machinery parts found in Russia, and experts are saying that it's got an aluminum gear that's not the result of natural forces, postulating that it may be extraterrestrial. Now, some of the, we'd have to dig a little bit to find some of these off-the-wall stories, but wow, I mean, come on, 300 million year old chunk of machinery. It looks like a gear. There's something else going on in our history that is not out on.
being told, yeah, definitely. There was a story I was telling Tom that I saw about some, everybody knows how much I like to talk about dolphins, and the story with dolphin and divers were these, I'll post up the YouTube, but there was this dolphin that was swimming at nighttime around these divers that were diving, and basically you see the divers helping the dolphin, and the dolphin is kind of like, kept swimming around them so he can get help from them, and
that's an amazing video.
Yeah, just communication with no words between them was amazing. So, I did a whole English class on that.
Oh, you did on that whole YouTube story?
Just not that story, but also the dog that saved the other dog from the highway, and those. There was another one where there was a man from Taiwan, and after his ox worked for 21 years, he was going to retire the ox in a retirement home for oxes that worked, and they don't kill them. They die of natural causes, and the man started crying, and the ox didn't eat for 3 days until he came and fed her. So it's just, you know,
those animal stories. You know, the ones that blow me away. There's one from, and I think I heard this on one of our guest shows. I did, as a matter of fact, of this dog back in World War II, and I don't know if you've heard this.
Hachiko.
But this dog somehow or another made it to a ship, got on a ship all by himself. You know, he made it onto a ship over into Europe and got partnered up with a soldier over there. Ended up getting close enough to smell out his master or whatever, and found his master. So the dog took it upon himself to come from the United States, go down to the docks, get on the right boat, and headed overseas. I mean, stuff like
that's
that.
all
Intuition.
Absolutely
Amazing stuff. Absolutely amazing stuff.
Oh no, I was thinking of there's another story here in Japan, Hachiko, and they have a statue of him here in Shibuya, Tokyo. So anybody who's been here knows the statue because it's very famous. And the story is not the same, but basically he would go to that same spot after the owner went off to the war, and just waited for him there in that spot till he till basically the dog died, because the owner never came back.
Wow.
That's a sadder story. But anyway, let's get into don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Tom's YouTube. If you scroll down, you can find all the links there, and we have somebody exciting that we can talk about all these different things with.
Right.
Very well-rounded person.
And before I forget, the bumper music tonight is Blaze Garridu. Is that how you pronounce it?
Garridu, yeah.
Yeah, Garridu. Take a Stand for Love. So when there's links for that on the page here. So. Oh, tonight we have best-selling author, medical intuitive, Dr. Rita Louise. She's the host of Just Energy Radio and founder of the Institute of Applied Energetics. She's the author of, I think it's 4 books. Our bio here says 3, but I think there's 4 out there, as well as hundreds of articles that have been published worldwide. She's appeared on radio and television and has spoken at conferences covering topics such as health and healing, ghosts, intuition, ancient mysteries, and the paranormal. Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio, Dr. Rita Louise.
Hi, Tom and Ramon. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, this is fantastic. I've been following your radio show for for a while now, a year and a half or so, and I just absolutely love the way that you put the information out there and what you're doing to help raise the consciousness on this planet. Kudos to you. We love you. We love you. We love you.
Well, thank you so much. You know, I always am like, wow, you listen to my show and you like it? Well, and I'm sure you feel the same way. You know, you do this work and you put it out there, and you just kind of hope somebody will listen to you and enjoy it and find value.
Exactly. Day one, before Ramon and I started, I told him, Ramon, for us to be an absolutely complete success, I said, I don't care how many shows we have to do, how much money it costs us. I don't care about any of that stuff. As long as we help one person, it'll be a complete success. And we got a very, very nice, the very first week, we got a very nice email from a gentleman that watched the show or listened to the show, and was thanking us for the help that we had given. So right off the bat, our show was a success.
Yay.
Yeah, time to retire. Oh.
Yeah, so maybe you can give us some pointers on how to be a better host. Because we still don't know what we're doing.
Oh, when you think I do?
Oh.
I just make it up, you know, and try to have a little bit of fun. And sometimes my guests are good, and they joke back. And some other times I can tell they're thinking in the back of their minds, what's this woman thinking?
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard a couple of those psychic messages my way a few times. So your latest book, Man Made: The Chronicles of Our Extraterrestrial Gods, I absolutely love. I haven't read the book, but the whole subject matter is right down my alley. I am absolutely fascinated with our ancient history and our true history. And I've seen that our society, the way it's set up, this patriarchal, do what we say, not what we do type system that we've set up, has really scrubbed our ancient history completely out of social consciousness. Uh, how far back do you go in that book? Do you try to get back to our origins there?
Well, where we go back to is quote unquote in the beginning.
Oh, there we go.
And I'll just state this up front just so you get an idea. One of the things that we decided early on in the book was that we really needed to take the Bible and put it to the side because we didn't want to write and investigate a book to prove what the Bible says. We wanted to hear, this book is all about mythology, and we allowed the mythology to speak and give it a platform to tell its story. And because one of the things we found out was when you take the stories and start laying them side by side, it actually creates a chronology. And you have this story from this culture and this story from this culture and this story from this culture. And, the Sumerians maybe, emphasize this thing, but then over in South America, you get this other little twist on the narrative. And so it's like, well, do I like this narrative better or this one, or which one makes more sense? Which one is more politically correct? It was really interesting. And the way the book is formatted is we present you the myth. We don't tell you what to think. We present you the myth so that you can make your own decision. And even though we'll put in, well, could
right,
could our ancestors have been from, a different planet? We'll put in statements like that, but we don't say, and our ancestors came from a different planet, blah,
right,
blah, blah.
right.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me of for example, in our own modern history, like, if we look at 9/11 or World War II, and we're telling these stories, let's say 1,000 years from now, it would sound kind of remarkable, depending where we're at in technology, it would sound kind of remarkable, and also who's telling it, because I'm sure that for example, with 9/11, the Arabs are not going to tell it the same way the Americans will, or the other person in South America. So it'll be coming from different points of view, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of twists and things added onto it. So is it something kind of the same with our ancient history? So you have the Sumerian texts and stuff out of the Maya or Incan Empire, and how it's just a little different, but it's their point of view from how they experienced it.
That's a great question, and there were some point of view differences. And you would read the stories, and they were very subtle because you could tell that they were having it was the same narrative, but there was this subtle twist. Like it was almost the difference of telling a story from the first person and telling a story from the third person. It's the same, but it's just slightly different. The part that was the most fascinating, however, is that we found a very consistent narrative around the world. And the conclusion, and this conclusion we did make in the book, is that they were all telling the same story. And the belief we came to was that the story that we hold as our history was not our recording of what we saw and what we observed, but the stories of the gods that they passed on to us and we kept telling to our children and our posterity.
So we started out with a myth.
No, we started out with nothing.
But we were given the myth. What I'm
Correct.
saying, yeah, we were given the myth versus being capable of recording it at the time when we started.
We weren't here.
Right.
Have to be here to record it.
Well, I suppose that does help, I think.
Well, you know what was interesting when we started the book. You know, the whole 2012 thing got me really digging deep into a lot of ancient mysteries. And one of the things that I ran across was some different flood narratives. And they were very similar. So I took an even deeper look at just flood myths and discovered that one of the things that I did is, you know, I like using notebooks. And so I made little columns, you know, built an ark, was warned of flood, you know, number of people that survived. And I just, you know, kind of like from the Noah story, because they were similar to that story. And I started making lists of, okay, this element could be found in the Iroquois legends. This element could be found in the Iroquois legends and the Peruvian legends and the Sumerian legends. And, you know, and so by the time I got done going through this stack of myths, long or short. The narrative ended up being something to the effect of there was a pious, virtuous, or righteous man who's warned of a flood. He builds a boat, an ark, a canoe, climbs a tree, or climbs to the top of a mountain. He survives the flood either with his sister, maybe his brother. It might be his sister or wife. There might be some children that survive. There might be a few animals that survive. And in a couple of the narratives, they release an animal, not necessarily a bird, but an animal to let them know that the waters had receded. And when you go around the world, that's it. Now, just one last little brain point. You know, if there's a tsunami in Southeast Asia and the Euphrates or the Nile is flooding, you know, to excessive amounts, the story they're going to write down are going to be different. And so if these were all localized floods, the story would inherently have to be different. And that's not what we found.
Right. So definitely something that points towards a global catastrophe of some kind.
Or a catastrophe that happened in one place at one time and then was shared around the world to all these different cultures.
Sinking of Atlantis.
Whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking that whole story. I'm sure you're familiar with the supposedly the CIA had found the ship, but it wasn't a boat. It was actually a spaceship or a flying machine stuck inside the like crashed inside the what's the name of that mountain in Turkey?
Ararat?
Yeah, Ararat. And supposedly that was the Ark of the Covenant, not the Ark of the Covenant, the
Noah's Ark.
Yeah. Were you able to find any reference to something like that in the ancient myths?
Well, I mean, they don't talk about, you know, a craft crashing down on the top of a mountain. And actually, I had not heard that, you know, that they had found a ship, you know, like a UFO kind of ship. But that might be why there's no one doing any research up there anymore, because they've just shut them down, which, you know, would be consistent with our contemporary government.
No, not our government.
Yeah.
Well, not our government. No, you're in
it's
Japan. Your government.
it's the world, Ramon. I don't, you know, I kind of think we're already under that global, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. There's already
global BS.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I want to kind of get out of your book for a little bit and get into you and what makes you tick and who is Dr. Rita Louise and how did you get into this?
Well, I have always been interested in things that I guess were, on some extent taboo. My very, very first love in life was the study of archaeology and anthropology. And, when I was in 8th grade, I did a paper, it was our kind of senior project of what we wanted to be. And I wanted to be an archaeologist. But around the same time, around the time of 8th grade, I got turned on to the whole concept of ESP and psychic phenomena, except it wasn't psychic phenomena back then. And I also discovered that if you wanted to do anything in the archaeological, anthropological world, you had to have a PhD. And that really kind of put a damper on me pursuing that area anymore. Excuse me. And so I started reading books on ESP, and, as I got older, I started reading books on Eastern philosophy and astrology and numerology and pretty much anything I could get my hands on, because I figured the more I read, eventually I'd have to be psychic, which really didn't work. But, that's what I thought. And did that for a long time, would read cards, but it was like more using the book kind of thing. So that really didn't count as being psychic. I tried memorizing tarot cards because I figured, well, surely if you could memorize the cards, you could do a reading and then you'd be psychic. That didn't work. So, well, I have discovered there are certain things that, and I think your listeners will hear this, that spirit just doesn't want me to do. Like memorize tarot cards, can't do it. Memorize numerology, can't do it. But you can tell me about a supplement. You can tell me about some kind of healing modality, and I can activate the computer and pull it out from nowhere. I'll talk about stuff that I have kind of no idea what I'm talking about, but I know it's right. But memorize tarot cards didn't ever happen. Couldn't make it happen. Work with a pendulum, can't make it happen. Dowsing rods don't work. Work for a lot of other people, great. Not for me. Anyway, so then I found the Berkeley Psychic Institute and started studying with them. And after being in their program for 3 weeks, I realized that I had been very psychic my whole life, and no one ever had connected the dots. I realized that, when I walked up to this one gentleman years before, kind of being my regular sassy little self, and he hadn't come into work one day, and I went by his desk and looked at him and was meaning to say, well, where were you yesterday? And I looked at him, I said, well, where were you yesterday? Having them check for a brain tumor. And that was where he had been the day before.
Wow.
Well, then I realized that people aren't supposed to do that, and you have to have not that everybody doesn't have psychic abilities. I truly believe that everybody has psychic abilities, but, I have people that called me radar because I could find stuff all the time. I would stick my foot in my mouth a lot because I would just make these statements that apparently were secrets. Oops.
I've met a lot of people like that, and they're just coming into it, and things would just pop out of their head, and then when the person would ask them, "What do you mean?" they shut down, and I always thought that was terrible to do. If you're gonna say something, just say everything that comes out. Because I've seen people shut it down because they just not supposed to say that.
Yeah, well, Ramon. I think that's more on as you're coming into it type levels, as you're starting to blossom, so to say. I think once you become conscious of what you're doing, you're able to navigate Western society a little bit better as far as how people are going to react to what you say, and you can pad it or be more subtle about it or something like that, lead them to the answer themselves.
Yeah, but I think because I've had that experience myself, several people come up to me and say something, and ask them, what do you mean, you know, and they'll just shut down. And I just think that's like, I don't know. I guess it's because I fall into that same category.
But you know, it also depends on how the information came through. So when I have these cute little quippy comments that I make to people, that information is coming through on a 7th chakra level, and it's basically unfiltered information that for me comes right out of my mouth, and usually it's cute with quotation, you know, like it's usually cute, but it's always right. And I mean, so like there was the guy with the brain tumor. I worked with this one gentleman who was moving from California to a very landlocked state. And that's important because he had a boat that you had to moor. I mean, it was that big, you know, that you could take it out. It was a fishing boat. And he was on a contract, and so it was like 2 months before his contract ended, and his boat somehow caught on fire. It was a miracle. And he was telling us about his boat, and I just looked at him, I go, a little Jewish lightning. And it was one of those comments that just came out of my mouth. Just boom, out of my mouth. And I'm not trying to be offensive. In New York, okay, this is a very colloquial term. See, I use that, and I forget people don't know what it means, and then they get offended. It's a very colloquial term, and it means basically you torch your property to get the insurance money, okay? So it's not like it's politically incorrect, but if you said it like in New York or New Jersey, they'd be like, yeah, it was. And
she was like, I haven't heard that so long. I grew up in New York. So.
But see, so you know it's like totally not offensive.
And it seems like these days everything is offensive.
Yeah, but you know, if that's what you said, that's what you said. And what am I going to say? You know, well, you know, you lit it on fire to collect the insurance money when that's not what I said. So it's easier to explain it on the back end. Anyway.
Yeah.
So had he burned his own boat?
I don't know, but knowing the kind of person he was, it was highly suspect that he did. You know, but when things like that come out, there's two things that I've observed. One, they're always true. And two, you have no control. And if you ask somebody, well, why did you say that? You don't know. Because it just whoosh, comes in and flows out.
Yeah, I call that getting plugged in. That'll happen when I'll get in a conversation, talking or counseling with someone, or reading cards or whatever I happen to be doing, and it get into a place where it's like it's just flowing through me, and then 5 minutes later, if you ask me what I said, I haven't got the foggiest idea.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this was something that was just natural for you, or did you work on building it once you realized it?
Well, I mean, it was very natural for me, and you know, going to the Berkeley Psychic Institute, they gave me a lot more structure, you know, and made it so that you learned how to, you know, formulate a session, things to look at it, you know, and you know, I want to say control it better, you know, but it really wasn't a matter of controlling it, but giving it structure, I think, is the best way to frame it. You know, so if you're doing like a card reading, the nature of the card reading is the structure.
Right.
You know, and then it's kind of like, you know, there's this internalized process that you go through where if you just, you know, a lot of people that want to have psychic abilities, you know, their belief is, well, spirit, tell me something. And then you're just waiting. But in my experience, and Tom, maybe it sounds like you do readings, you know, correct me if this isn't your experience, but you have to ask the question. Exactly. You have to have the format. And if you just say, ooh, tell me something, I don't know. I just hear a lot of crickets and dead air space.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely got to be something to work with there, or you never know where you're going to end up.
So it's a good thing that it's a pre-recorded show, so in case you do say something, we can edit it out.
No, usually that's the best, I swear.
So, have you figured out what divination is? Do you know what's your definition of divination?
Okay, edit that part out. I mean, God, that's a word that I have not heard or used in like a million years.
Huh.
I mean, I guess if it was me, I would ascribe it to something like doing a card reading or using some kind of tool to do some kind of reading thing. Mm.
Okay. Oh boy.
I'm like, wow, that's old school.
So, when you started, when did you started saying, okay, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna start taking clients? What was your first experience when you said, okay, I'm gonna take a client?
I have to think about this a second. I had just finished the clairvoyant program at Berkeley Psychic Institute and decided that, you finished this training, you know how to do it, so let's go ahead and take a client. I'll tell you what, I mean, because when you were at Berkeley, you were constantly doing readings. They would have people come in, but it was all set up by them. You weren't paid. And so the part of it was, well, it really didn't matter if it was bad because the person only paid like $20 for a 2-hour reading. And usually there were 2 or more psychics doing the reading for this person. So they definitely got value for their $20. And, but when you do a private consultation, they're paying you for your expertise and it just really shifts the energy. And, so I did a session for a woman and the session went good. I mean, I spent a really, 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 really long time with her. And then I felt so guilty taking money from her, but I took it anyway because I just spent a really long time with her. And then once you get past the taking money part, because that's big for a lot of people, is, accepting compensation for it. Once you can kind of get past that energy, it really isn't that bad. It's pretty fun working with people. I like it.
Yeah, I definitely struggled with the whole money thing for a lot of years. Then it's got to be, but I've also found that there has to be some kind of exchange of energy in some form or fashion. I think that's one of the fundamental principles of existence, So.
I always joke around. It's like, well, you never brought me a chicken. You're not re-roofing my house. I mean, so, you want my time and energy. I should get some time and energy or something back. But in addition, my experience has been if you do a free reading for someone, especially if it's a friend person, usually the first thing they do is tell you how wrong you are and how it's going to be different. And it's like, whatever. Like, fine, you can pay me and then you'll at least see value. Well, I mean, check this out. So my brother was buying a new house and his wife wanted to know, what I thought about this house. And, that they were looking to buy. And so I was kind of going through the house. I mean, I think I lived in Washington State at the time, but they were in New York. And so I'm like going through the house and I kept making some comment about either the basement or having some kind of water issue or there was something going on and they weren't going to get the house or they shouldn't get the house. And they were like, nah, we're going to get the house. Rah, rah, rah. And it's like, well, why did you ask me then? If you're just going to stick it in my face and say you're going to get it anyway. Well, I don't ever hear anything from them. And I find out months later that they didn't get the house because it had plumbing problems that were running through the basement.
So they
But they won't ever admit that. Yeah, you were right.
Yeah, but now if they ask me for a reading, they have to pay. So they don't.
So
that lesson.
So before we started the show, we were talking about animals, and have you have experience with animals as far as them like telling you things about owners and stuff like that?
I mean, I'm really not an animal communicator in that way. I mean, I think everybody has, that does psychic work has their area that they really resonate with. And so, I mean, like with my dogs, there is definitely a very high level of communication. Other people's dogs. I mean, I've done work health-wise with people's pets, cats and dogs, birds, not so much. Because it's easier for me to look at the physical body as opposed to the emotional self. But with my dogs, I mean, I have a dog who passed, and I mean, she and I were bonded. And you hear stories of parents, especially new moms, and they have an infant in the other room, and for some reason the mom wakes up, and then a couple of minutes later you hear the baby rustling in the bed, needing to be changed or whatever. And it's because of this psychic bond between the mother and the child. Well, I mean, with my dog, she was older. She was a special needs dog. I mean, she was just old. She was almost 17 when she died. And so we had to start kenneling her at night because she wasn't making it through the night. And so I would just wake up, and I'm a very sound sleeper, and I would just wake up in the middle of the night, and within a couple of seconds, I would hear her starting to rustle around in her box, which meant she needed to go out. And I'd take her out, and we'd come back, and she'd go back in her box, and I'd go back to sleep. But it was just bizarre because I know that I would be woken out of a dead sleep. Just boom. And then I'd hear her moving around. It's like, oh, that's what it is.
So you're a medical intuitive. Now, when you look at somebody or someone comes to you with a problem, how do you read them? Do you, how do you read them?
I mean, I'm a clairvoyant, primarily a clairvoyant, so I'm very visual. And I do two different kinds of assessments. One is more like a physical exam where I go through your whole body. But I find that, for most people, it's really a waste of time, energy, and money. Because if you're coming to me, you know where your owies are. You know what your questions are. You know where you hurt. You know what your symptoms are. And so what I find to be more effective is for somebody to say, I have abdominal pain, or my shoulder hurts, or I went to the doctor and, this is what they said, and then just start from there because I, have studied as a naturopath. I have a ND, and so there's what they say, and then there's, other things that I'm going to want to look at that are related to. So if they're complaining about a digestive issue, I'm automatically going to look at their liver and gallbladder. I'm going to look at, obviously the stomach, but there's a lot of different facets of the stomach that I'm going to look at. It's also, like digestive enzymes or whatever. I mean, whatever might contribute from a functional area to a stomach issue. But then as the person's talking, I also will get input, on intuitive levels. You might want to look at this, you might want to look at this, and I will kind of make some notes of that and then just start poking around. And when I work with people, there's what's going on physically, but I believe that, with the majority of issues that we have in our bodies, there is a psychospiritual component to them. And usually I will provide insights not only on the physical level, and I'm talking physical level, not chakra level, as well as what the emotional energy that's tied to those issues are as well.
So have you found in any of your clients, for example, let's just say that someone was in their past life was stabbed, and then you found that there was like because I've heard this a lot. Um, there was like an energetic knife still stuck, and that person suffering from, let's say, shoulder problems, exactly where they were stabbed in their past life, for example.
So residue issues arising in this lifetime from previous injuries in other lifetimes.
Thank you for the translation.
Yeah, I got it. I mean, it's pretty common thing to see stuff like that. But it also can happen from individuals in this life. I mean, there are, you don't know how many clients that I've had where, they'll come and they'll be complaining about something. It's like, oh, well, that's because you have this big knife in the middle of your back. And then I'll look at the energy that's attached to the knife and go, do you work with someone, that's got red hair and she's, kind of not nice? And she'll be like, yeah, it's like, it was from her. It was from her. And so sometimes that energy, is not only from a past life, it can be from a current life, or from situations. Like I worked at this one company. I used to work in manufacturing companies. I was the engineering services manager. And we had to move these boxes out of a storage location. And this guy went with me to get the boxes. And when he brought them back to my department, he just pretty much just dumped them in the middle of the floor. Couldn't put them against the wall. He just plunk right in the middle of the floor. And so I started to move the boxes, and it was right at lunchtime, and I was really kind of annoyed. And when I said something to him about, you just dumped them in the middle of the floor, he just gave me this really kind of smart ass look. And I went to pick up one of the boxes, and it threw my back out. I mean, bad. They took me to the hospital bad. And, so while I was home recovering and soaking in the tub, I noticed that there was a hole in my auric field that went all the way down to the physical body, right to where I was whacked. And that guy's energy was there with this kind of smirk on his face. Really pissed me off. But what are you going to say? Oh, you energetically whacked me. So,
Yeah, I have definitely noted things like that within my own body. The feeling the repercussions of somebody else's anger or frustrations directed at me. I definitely felt that and had to deal with it on more than one occasion. So, is there what does one do to quote unquote protect themselves from that sort of thing, or is there? I guess where I'm going with this is there anything that can be done to a person that they're not signed up for, so to say? A fate sort of idea, I guess.
I'm not quite sure what you mean, but I'll just go somewhere.
It's said that you're only given as much as you can handle, right? That the God will only put on your plate as much as you can eat. So that anything that comes your way is something that you need to go through for your learning, your own personal learning process. I guess I'm kind of alluding to, do you see victims and perpetrators?
Okay. I mean, I think that, the burden that God gives us is different than the BS we give each other. To be honest, you know what I mean? Because we can handle what God gives us. And then there is the rules and the cruelty of other people or the ignorance of other people that affect us. And I don't know if, in my opinion, it doesn't fall under that same umbrella. I see that as being in addition to, but as far as, dealing with other people, I think one of the biggest things for people to recognize is that we can't hold on to other people's energy, and we can, accept it as our own and let it impact us. And once we realize that it's not us and it's not our problem, it gives us the opportunity to let it go and move through it and transition out of it. And if there is something that is bothering us or hurting us, getting in the flow, because if there's, all right, actually, here, let's get a little technical here. If there's something that is bothering us, it means that there is some kind of an energy or a picture or a vibration that's in our auric field or potentially in one of our chakras. And the reason that is bothering us is because we, for some reason, are holding it in place. There's something within our psyche that says, well, wait a minute, I need to look at that and I need to evaluate that and I need to see if that's really congruent with me, even if it's painful. But if we do things like meditate, if we do things that get us in the groove, play music, go to the gym, go for a good run, sometimes for me, coloring or doing, anything that is going to get you into that flow of energy with the universe is going to help break that up and allow you to be you in your space and not you and this other stuff in your space that is occupying your attention. So if there's something that's really bothering you, doing things to release it, because it's really about releasing it and letting it go, that is going to help move you forward.
Well said. Well said. I like that. What about protection? Is there a form of protection that you use yourself? Or shielding or yeah, okay.
I just put out bad mojo.
Yeah, I heard it.
Well, there are so many people like surround yourself with white light. You need to pray. I mean, I do ghost hunting. People are like, well, you need to say a prayer before you go in and, do this ritual. I don't do anything. I mean, when I do ghost hunting, I will ground myself and kind of like check in with myself and do a little tune up, before I go in. So, I mean, I guess that's a kind of ritual, but that's kind of all I do, but I'm also very aware of my space. And if there's something going on, I'm pretty aware of it. Sometimes it takes me a while to get out of it, because it has knocked me so far out of my center that it's even challenging for me, but I realize that I'm knocked out of my center, and then it's just a matter of like remembering, oh yeah, if you exercise for a while or, go do these things that will work, it'll work. But it's interesting, when our energy gets really upset, I mean, to the point where you have to kind of like roll your socks down so you can see the world around you, you're just in that bad of a place. It's like you can't remember the most basic things that, I mean, I've been teaching people how to work with their energy and do readings for years. And there are times where it's like, I can't get out of my own way. And I'll call up a friend and they'll be like, well, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, hey, that's a great idea. Where'd you hear that from? It's like, you. It's like, oops. But that just lets me know what bad of a place I'm in.
Right.
It's just an accurate reflection of, ooh, you're in an even worse spot than you thought.
That I always find that hilarious how it's just so easy for us to notice things with other people, or even just day to day, but it's almost impossible to notice it with yourself.
Well, it's because one is a looking thing, or there's definitely like on some levels a visual component, they're over there and so they're separate from us versus, when things are in our auric field, we assume that it's us. We assume it's our energy and I'm feeling bad and and it's about me because it's in my space. And that's, so recognizing that maybe it's not you is good. And just really being aware of, this is how I normally am. This is my normal energy. This is my normal level of whatever, good, bad, or indifferent. This is just who I am. And when there are things that keep you from being that way, then that's the indicator that there's something wrong. or something's different.
It seems like everything's just based on consciousness, being aware. Awareness is the big key here, and that's and that's, I mean, I suppose that's what we've been throwing out there from day one. Ramon and I with the show is raising that level of consciousness. Getting people to become more aware of themselves and the world around them. Because it makes it so much easier to navigate when you are paying attention to what's going on.
Exactly, and you don't end up being surprised, or you have better choices in where you go. I mean, there are some people that just kind of ride the world, wherever it's going to take them, taking the path that is the easiest or that's presented to them. And, for some people, that really does work. But for other people, it's like they find themselves in places that they really didn't want to go. And have, over the years, have taught themselves how to not really use their energy to direct themselves, which is kind of unfortunate.
Right. I think that's one of the things that I see as a little bit of a drawback that came out of The Secret, the movie The Secret. The manifestation thing, where although that I got to give it to that movie, it did raise the awareness quite a bit, but there was a certain element that came out of that put people in their armchairs and made them just wish for stuff to come to them and sit back and wait for it, instead of sure, have that goal, but it takes the action too to reach it.
But there were people long before The Secret that were doing that. I mean, if you think about it, in the late 80s, affirmations were big. I had friends that had affirmations taped all over their houses and, like on the inside of their eyelids and in their cars. I mean, they just had them everywhere, and they would be like, say their affirmations. Yeah, I've been saying my affirmations and they're not working. And so that just kind of evolved into, I don't want to say it evolved into the whole secret thing, but I mean, that mentality has been around. I mean, even the storyboarding mentality was around long before The Secret. I think they just took that idea and made it be more public, more exposed. It moved out of the purely woo-woo new age community into, a more socially accepted context, which still gave you bad information.
Yeah. I mean, that it's a real and it's a true function of life here, bringing things upon your path that you would like to experience. The whole thing kind of got twisted in that. In what the majority of people out there believe manifestation is all about now, anyways.
Yeah, because I'm still waiting for my spaceship.
Well, you should have went to Russia to that meteor and got your little piece of meteor ship. See, I don't even want ships. I want a transporter.
Yeah.
Let's just get right to it.
Oh, you're so spoiled.
I know.
So we know a guy there in Japan. He's a monk, and he actually has recounted a couple of experiences with Ramona and I, where and he doesn't have conscious control of this, but he was meditating in a park one day, and poof, found himself 300 miles away in a snowbank.
In a mountain area here in Japan.
Yeah.
That's pretty trick.
Yeah. So,
yeah, but did he astral project, or was it more of a UFO abduction scenario?
It was a total translocation.
Wow.
Yeah, like he had to have his friend send him money so he can come back to Tokyo. But he couldn't get back.
Yeah. So, there's all sorts of stories like that throughout, the last couple of hundred years, anyways, that of people who have bilocated or translocated type things. But I think that our we haven't even scratched the surface of what this consciousness is capable of. I don't think.
Mm-mm. No, I don't think so either. And I think humanity, where we are now, is still pretty far from it too.
Yeah. We've still got it. We're just barely starting to rub the sleep out of our eyes right now.
I mean, I remember reading something a number of years ago that was saying to the effect, it's a good thing that we can't instantly manifest, because if we could have what we thought, what if we think, oh, well, I wish he would jump off a bridge, or, I mean, there's a lot of things that we think, but what if they just came true? Just boom. It would just be bad. So we're kind of just in that beginning stage.
We would all be gone. Nobody would be here, because I don't know. I tried to wish it all away once or twice myself.
I just wish for a dinosaur, so it might be a problem. But we burned up this hour pretty quick.
Yeah, so I want to come back in a second hour, and we'll dig into some of the ancient history stuff out of your newest book, Man-Made, the Chronicles of what?
Our extraterrestrial gods.
Chronicles of our extraterrestrial gods. Fantastic stuff. So, okay.
Yeah, I just want to say, I also want to dig into the cosmic 2x4, because that's just something me and Tom are always talking about. Yep. I kind of love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to thank everybody for listening to the 100th Monkey Radio. And if you're listening to someplace to this, wow. If you're listening to this somewhere besides our website, if you pop on over to www.thehundredthmonkeyradio.com and click on that Join tab, you can become a member and check out all our second hour content. Dr. Rita, where can people get a hold of your book and your websites, etc.?
Sure, they can get a hold of Man-Made at www.soulhealer.com. That's my primary page. Or, it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all that good stuff. But can I make one really quick announcement?
Certainly.
Sure.
I'll try to be really fast. So this June, Ancient Alien star Brian Forrester and myself are putting together a trip to Peru. And we are going to be going down there to look at, like those giant stones at Sacsayhuaman. And we get to, hang out face to face, one-on-one with some of the elongated heads, and we're going to fly over the lines of Nazca. And one of the things about this tour that's going to make it really different is that we're going to be doing some remote viewing and doing other intuitive techniques, not to relax, not to meditate and transcend, but to start looking for answers as to who built these sites, who built the monuments, was it a race of giants, were there extraterrestrials involved, and we're going to try to do it as scientifically based as possible. I mean, everybody knows stuff about these locations, and so everyone is a little contaminated. And so we're going to try and do some blind studies and get some answers about these different sites. And so if that's something that people would be interested in, there's a big banner on my main site, soulhealer.com, that will take you to the trip information. It's going to be so much fun. You get to touch everything, and look at everything, and we actually get to hold those skulls. They're going to let us touch them. How cool is that?
Nice.
That
sounds
That's June 1st through 12th.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Okay. Well, guys, thanks for listening, and we're going to pop out of here. You're going to have Blaze Garrido take a stand. Featuring Garrido. Take a Stand for Love is going to take us out. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
And we'll see you in the second hour.
solve the problems that divide the world of black and white. To end the racism, you know we've got to fight. So we must